Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you happen to be watching this video, Bourbon Bay. It's your host, Steven. And yeah, sorry it's been so long time no see. Just been kind of trying to figure out what I was going to call this video and just kind of prepping for it a little bit. We're going to call it the Magic of Barrels. And by that I mean the aging of spirits in barrels. As many of you guys know, there's a lot of different spirits that are aged. Of course, some of the most well known are bourbons, whiskeys, cognac, rum. But yeah, you can age quite a few things. Wine can be aged in barrels. And I know for this 15-minute video or 13-minute, however long we decide to do it, yeah, I'm not going to be able to talk to every little bit of the whole process of what's called maturation. And I'm hoping to actually do some videos in the future where we go more in depth and hopefully actually visit some places like cooperages, which are the term of what a barrel maker is called as a cooper. And basically their job is to make barrels. And that whole process starts out with, depending on the type of barrel, you can get white oak barrels, which are very famous for making bourbon. You have French oak, which are known for cognacs. They're known for aging wine as well, and several other spirits. Some use them to finish Scotch whiskey to kind of do that process. But yeah, basically it starts out with a person, and it takes 33 staves to make a barrel. And I think I talked about this in some of my past episodes, so if you guys want to check those out, feel free to go on to my YouTube channel at Bourbon Bay Talks and go check out those videos. But yeah, kind of getting back to the making of barrels, I mean, it takes a process, and before those staves, or when they chop down the wood, they turn that wood into staves, and that staves are then put out and seasoned or aged themselves, where basically they spend time sitting and aging before they're turned into barrels. Some can sit for about a couple weeks to 6 months to a year is kind of how they do it, and basically allows for the wood to kind of release some of its fibers, and then also to kind of break down some of the fibers in the wood, and then also to kind of give the barrels or the staves some seasoning to it, because they'll be sitting out there in the environment, getting rained on. The wind is going to be hitting them, and that kind of adds some nuances into the staves of themselves. Finally, then they're, after they're done their seasoning process, it is done to the barrel or maker, the cooper, and they start putting together the whole process. And I'm hoping we'll get to go to some barrel makers, and some of the famous barrel makers here in the States. There's like Calvin Cooperage, Independent Stave Company, or some. There's quite a few others, like out in Missouri. And yeah, so hopefully we'll get to go out and do that. Definitely, if you guys would like to have that and like to see that, please put it down in my comments. Let me know. And then, yeah, your guys' support is always needed and always appreciated. I appreciate the 2 new subscribers, just to take kind of a quick, appreciation of those subscribers, because, hey, it helps me out and it helps the channel out. But yeah, so basically after the barrel is made, then it is charred, and there's 3 or 4 levels of char. You have your number 1 char, which isn't a char that's it's like just quickly, basically like flash burn and then put out. So it just gives it a chance to kind of burn the inside real quick. There's the number 2 char. Again, it's a little bit longer. Number 3 is pretty standard. And then, of course, a lot of you know the number 4 char, which is what Buffalo Trace uses in their barrels. And basically, those are like a real decent long burn. And in that burning process, why they do that is, one, to allow for the barrels to basically make it easier for the spirits to enter the wood and open up a lot of the fibers. And by doing that, it also caramelizes also some of the starches. It caramelizes also the sugars in the wood, and basically allows that process to happen during the aging. That is maturation. And I actually had one of my friends in Louisville, my buddy Brad Metzger at the time, he made me a lamp with some bourbon staves, and I'll show you real quick, and just to kind of give you a little bit of a process or show you what that char looks like. So as you guys can see, really nice looking lamp with a Willet pot still bottle. And yeah, so this kind of gives you an example of some of the char on the inside. Of course, he kind of sanded it down a little bit, but yeah, that's basically what would be an example of like probably a number 3 or number 4 char. It's going to be a little bit more cracked on the inside. That's just after it was kind of sanded down. And then you can kind of, I'm going to pull out a little bit, but you see this red line? That's actually how far that the spirit went into the barrel. It kind of leaves that little note or that little or line there. But yeah, so basically the wood goes, or the spirit goes into the barrel at different proofs depending on what's being made, whether it's bourbon, wine, rum. And yeah, I mean, you could even do vodka. It's probably not going to taste very good, but you could even do vodka. Gin has been done in it. Of course, we know tequila is done in it. Scotch, Irish whiskey, Japanese whiskeys, cognacs are very. That was actually one of the first, was cognac, probably. That was stored in barrels. And you know, it basically imparts flavors. So as the spirit enters into the woods during the maturation process, which basically is, you know, why we put it in rick houses, is it allows the barrels to sit out and be, you know, subject to the climate, the temperatures, the barometric pressure. And, you know, that basically that barometric pressure, the temperatures, you know, as it gets hot, the barrels expand, and then it absorbs more of the spirit into the barrel and into the wood to allow it to get more flavor and extract the flavors, extract some of the sugars out of it. And then when it gets cool, it contracts, pushing the whiskey out, pushing that spirit out, and basically allows it to kind of breathe in and out. And you know, depending on where you go, like in, you know, Scotland, Ireland, their aging process is a lot longer because of course their temperature doesn't vary as much as, let's say, in Kentucky or other parts of the United States. So basically almost to kind of get the same aging process that you get, let's say, in Kentucky, it takes over there in Scotland and Ireland longer time. So that's why you'll see more 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 20-year-old barrels. Where over here, like in Kentucky, you're typically, the oldest you're going to see is maybe 10 to 15. Yes, there are some 23, 20-year-olds, but they tend to be more oaky, not as flavorful. So that, you know, magic spot that we sometimes see where a lot of people, what they do is they'll age it for about 6 to 7 years. Tends to be that more magic number. But it really just depends on your flavor, your taste profile, what you feel is ready. Like down here in Florida, ours is a little bit different, and then over in Texas is different because we have hotter climates, and you're going to get more probably 2-year-old and 3-year-old and maybe 4-year-olds because, and sometimes what I love to joke around about is our angels are a lot thirstier. And that's part of like what you'll also hear, and I'm hoping we'll go more in depth about a lot of this. Like I said, I can't say all this about the whole process in one little 15, 20, or 10, 15-minute video. It's just, there's just so much. I mean, you could do a number of videos about this. And is basically the barometric pressure, the heat. We have hotter summers and not as cool winters, so sometimes those angels, as we like to call it, and it is called angel share, is the evaporation. And basically what I mean by that is that, as the barrels expand and the whiskey or spirit goes into the barrels, it also evaporates. And depending on things, because alcohol has a lower or a higher, sorry guys, I think water, of course, has a certain temperature it evaporates, and then alcohol is a little bit lower. So depending on things, you could have more water be evaporated, which will cause the spirit inside to actually gain proof. So if it goes in the barrel, let's say at 110 proof, but yet somehow a lot of water is more evaporated compared to alcohol, then it's actually going to end up being a higher proof by the time they get it out of the barrel. So it could end up being 115, 120. I mean, that's pretty extreme. Usually it only goes up like a couple points. So like 110 may go to 112, maybe 115. But in other cases, the proof actually might go down depending on if more alcohol is being evaporated at the time. Where, hey, it could go in at 120, and by the time you get it out, it's 115 proof. So, yeah, it just depends. And, I mean, that's the magic of aging spirits and barrels. Is just there's so many different factors that go into just even the aging process. Like, hey, where it sits in the warehouse. Is it up on the top rack, or is it way on the bottom rack? Is it in the middle? So it's just, all these factors affect it. I find that process to be so fascinating, because you could be aging. It's the same ingredients that you're distilling the spirit from, but just by putting it in that one barrel, the flavor profile could be so different, and it can affect that profile in so many different ways. So that's kind of what is so fascinating about the aging process, and why I want to go more in depth into it. And hopefully go visit some of the coopers, go to some distillers and talk to them about, and see some of the aging process of the barrels. I mean, one of my favorite smells when you go up to a distillery is smelling that angel share, because it's very distinct. You can really smell as you're walking up to a distillery that angel share, especially if they're aging their product in barrels. Because, and then there's also another thing called Devil's Cut, and that's basically, and of course, many of you probably heard of it from Jim Beam when they did their Devil's Cut whiskey, where they take the staves of the barrels and they squeeze it out and get that leftover spirit out of the wood. And that sometimes is what is called the Devil's Cut, is when the spirit is in the barrel, but not all of it is coming out by the time, let's say, they just extract it. So there's still some spirit that's left in the wood. And so some places will go ahead and they'll, pressure, press the wood to get that excess liquor out of it. And sometimes that may even have more flavor to it. So it's just, it's a very fascinating topic, and I'm really hoping to go more in depth into it. And I'm hoping you guys are willing to join me on that. I find it to be very fascinating, and I know probably a lot of you will find it to be very fascinating. And a lot of that starts with you guys helping me out by going out on my YouTube channel, Instagram, and my different social medias, and subscribing, following me, leaving comments, giving me thumbs up. Hey, if you think it sucks, give me a thumbs down or whatever. So, but yeah, I always appreciate everybody's comments. I read them all, and I always look forward to the feedback, and I appreciate everybody who's watched my videos and has taken the time to appreciate what I have to say about different topics about spirits. And I hope all you guys have a great rest of your day. And if you're going to have a drink responsibly. But also, hey, enjoy. Take care of Bourbon Bay. See you in the next time. Peace out.